From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Bursell. This is The Log. All right, let's revisit the shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I want to pick up a couple of loose ends and talk a little bit about the aftermath. First, an initial note. Please don't think any of this is normal. Don't confuse this with headlines of the past. Don't just casually put all of this under the umbrella of, finger quotes, politics. And for the love of God, don't ever let me hear you employ the words, both sides. That is a red flag. Anybody who utters the words, both sides, just turn them off. Just stop listening. Stop reading. It's lazy, confirm the status quo establishment thinking. We don't need that kind of coverage. We don't need that kind of mindset. Don't let it sink into yours. And why the hell does anybody still talk to the Orange Menace? All he knows how to do is lie. If he's talking, he's lying. The only time he's not lying is if he's just riffing, if he's just making stuff up off the top of his head, or offering some dementia grandpa opinion. What you really need to do is find legitimate independent media telling you what the regime is actually doing, not what some spokesperson, or least of all, the Orange Menace, is saying. What they say means nothing. What they do means everything. And it's all pure, unadulterated fascism at work every day, grinding away. They got this thing running like a 24/7 fascism assembly factory. So forget the PR, forget the spokespeople, forget the Orange Menace, forget the Dog and Pony Show, forget the Three-Ring Circus. All right, so the Hilton Ballroom. I haven't mentioned, but I've been in the Hilton, D.C. I've been in that ballroom. I was there several years ago for a public radio conference. And I saw a lot of hubbub, a lot of people going downstairs, and I wondered what it was about. So I followed the crowd and learned that President Clinton, yeah, it was that long ago, was going to be speaking at this inside this massive ballroom. Well, I didn't have a ticket, of course. I just learned about it. But I took a chance and I talked to one of the security guys. I said I was with the public radio conference in the hotel. That's what was happening. It was an annual conference. So an entirely unrelated event. Well, he was kind of frazzled. I could tell he wasn't listening to me at all. But he heard the words public radio. And he glanced up and he looked at my credentials hanging from my lanyard. But they weren't credentials for this presidential event. They were credentials for the weekend conference that was going on upstairs. But he heard the words public radio, glanced up, looked at my credentials, and let me in as a member of the press. I wasn't a member of the press. I was there at the time hawking my little comedy show. But he just went ahead and sent me inside the ballroom. They put me at a table with other members of the press. A server came over and asked me if I wanted chicken or fish. They served me a nice dinner, and out comes President Clinton. Well, this is something. Wasn't planning on this when I woke up this morning. Anyway, it's a massive ballroom. It's huge. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the video and the pictures and everything. Well, the biggest story that's getting absolutely no coverage, CBS broke this, and nobody else picked it up. They interviewed an Air Force veteran who witnessed the shooter fall down, literally right at her feet. Erin Thielman is her name. And according to her, he had a clear path to the wide open ballroom doors, just one flight down. So the shooter, well, we can't call him a shooter because he didn't actually shoot. This is still really unclear from the reporting. And the government is not telling us. I don't think he shot anybody. I think the Secret Service agent who got shot, he's okay, thank goodness, because of his bulletproof vest. I think he may have been hit by friendly fire. I don't know. They're not telling us who shot him. There doesn't seem to be any credible reporting at all that Cole Allen, the guy arrested here, ever fired. I don't know. I'm waiting to find that out. You tell me if I'm wrong. Maybe you've seen some reporting that I haven't. But anyway, yeah, this Erin Thielman, Air Force veteran, witness. She was out in the lobby to make a phone call. I guess, as you've heard, the ballroom's kind of a dead zone. You can't get service. So she's out there. This guy comes running right at her, and he just fell down. You've seen the video. He was really hauling it. He was running really fast, and he just fell on his own momentum. He was not tackled, which we were told in the initial reports. And the way these things go, you hear the initial report, and that's all you ever hear. There might be a follow-up, but once that first report is out, that's what sticks in people's minds. So let's be clear. He was not tackled by Secret Service or any security. He was not shot by anyone. And according to this witness, he had a clear path mere feet away to the wide open ballroom doors. So that's how close we got to this guy storming into the room and starting to fire. It was sheer luck that he fell down. He was not stopped by security. They were chasing him, yes. They jumped on him once he fell down, yes. But according to this witness, there was nothing stopping him from entering the room. Nothing. She herself, after he fell, went down that final flight of stairs. And again, I've been there. It's not far. And she closed the doors. So this is pretty wild. And I'm amazed that no other news outlets are picking this up. There are more and more and more people believing this is a false flag. In that ridiculous 60 Minutes interview, Norah O'Donnell framed it to the Orange Menace as, oh, some people are saying this didn't happen. No, nobody's saying it didn't happen. And nobody is saying that all 2,600 people were in on it. No, what they're saying is, it only takes one guy to be duped into believing that he's somehow serving the nation. Maybe it was planned all along that he would fall down. Maybe it was planned all along that he was willing to be killed by Secret Service for the good of the nation. Now, I don't believe any of this. I don't believe any of these theories. I think they're kind of nuts. But it deserves reporting that a great many people believe this. Something else not being reported. Ken Klippenstein, the guy we can always turn to for independent reporting, tells us that Cole Allen, like Luigi Mangione before him and Tyler Robinson before him, were not far left radical fringe. They were not partisans. They were, as Klippenstein puts it, united in a sense of frustration with failed institutions defined by inaction, and a determination to embody the opposite through shocking spectacles of action. That's how Klippenstein puts it. And he tells us that, according to his social media posts, Cole Allen was furious with the Democrats, couldn't stand the Democratic Party for their failure to do what's right for this nation. Have you heard that, or seen that, or read that in legacy media? I haven't. And of course the regime is now weaponizing the event. Within 45 minutes of Cole Allen tripping and falling on Saturday night, they were already using it as an excuse to push for the big stupid gold ballroom. Which, by the way, the very next day, members of the White House Correspondents' Dinner, namely one of the past presidents, I forgot his name. He was the president, I think, last year, said, well, we'd never have that event at the White House. That's crazy. We're an independent organization. We're not going to have this at the White House. So if you want to build your ballroom, go ahead, but we ain't never going to have the WHCD there. So now there's this big blitz. There's a ballroom blitz by everybody on the right. Before the would-be shooter was on his feet and back into shirt and pants, all of them, dozens of them, were posting, build the ballroom. So yeah, weaponizing the event immediately. Now the Department of Injustice has decided to indict James Comey again, former FBI director, for that incident last year where he posted an image on his social media of seashells arranged on the beach to spell out 8647. A lot of people for the first time learned what 86 meant. I've always known, I don't remember where I first learned it, but I've known for as long as I can remember, that it's just a simple slang term for cancel it, get rid of it. According to, I just Googled it, 86 is an American slang term meaning to get rid of, discard, cancel, or refuse service to someone. It's commonly used to indicate an item is out of stock or to eject an unruly customer. I've never thought of it as to kill someone. Never even entered my mind. Popularized in the 1930s, the exact origin is unknown. Some theories include that it's rhyming slang. 86 rhymes with nix. Yeah. Some theories are better than others. Soda fountain slang, codes used in diners where 86 meant a product was out. Prohibition era, a speakeasy at 86 Bedford Street in New York was famously raided, leading to 86 meaning a quick exit. Nowhere in my knowledge of this did 86 ever mean to kill somebody. But that's what they're claiming. They're taking a year-old picture posted on social media by James Comey that said 8647, which was becoming a popular phrase at the time. It was trending. And when he learned what they thought it meant, he removed it immediately and said, "Oh, I didn't know that." Just like I never knew that. So the Orange Menace is weaponizing again. They're going after Jimmy Kimmel again. They can't even come up with new ideas. They're going back into the old playbook. Well, let's go after Kimmel again. Because he told a joke 4 nights prior to the event at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, where he made a joke about Melania becoming a widow. Had nothing to do with killing the president or assassinating him. It's a simple fact that he's 80 years old and in bad health, and she's younger than Kimmel, as he pointed out. She's younger than me, too. It wasn't a particularly funny joke, but there was absolutely nothing offensive about it. So they're building that into something that it isn't. And of course, Brendan Carr, head of the FCC, is leaning heavily on the Disney Corporation, proposing that affiliated stations have their license renewal moved up on the calendar, that they have these renewal appraisals early so they can threaten loss of license to individual stations. Because, as you must remember, and everybody always gets wrong, networks don't have broadcast licenses. Individual stations do. So it's just more out of the fascist playbook. Whatever advantage they can try to muster. And once again, please, please don't just think of this as, oh, that's just politics. Both sides do it. No, there's no truth to that. This is unprecedented stuff, and both sides don't do it. And let me repeat. The whole hand-wringing about political violence and assassination attempts and, oh, what are we going to do? Oh, we have to bring down the temperature. Oh, both sides. No. What would bring down the temperature is actual democracy. If power was distributed laterally, reasonable gun safety laws that everyone approves of, but can't be passed because our lawmakers are bought and sold, like bulls at an auction. We can't live in a permanent lockdown. We can't have schools and churches and malls all made into hard targets. For that matter, we can't expect that the president should live in a hard target bubble. The president shouldn't have to live like that. Because the president shouldn't have half the power that they have now. The president should not be a cult figure. The president should not be some weird celebrity. And the executive branch should be, as designed, one of 3 equal branches, and independent agencies, like the FCC and the Fed and others, should be independent. The Department of Justice should be independent. If and when we can eliminate the extremism of American fascism, we can all be empowered to play our role in a self-governing democracy. When all of us are protected by a basic social safety net that every civilized nation ought to expect, then we can feel a hell of a lot safer. Not only the president and dignitaries and lawmakers from political violence, but all of us. Yes, even including school children who routinely have to hide under their desks in live shooter drills, and far too many have to rely on that training in real live shooter situations. Lateral power, real democracy, social safety net, reasonable gun safety laws. All just so, these are just incredibly moderate proposals. I fancy myself a bit of a radical at times, These are incredibly moderate. But the response from the powers that be, the response from legacy media, is all hand-wringing. It's all, oh, what can we do without actually really changing anything? It's all status quo. I wanted to bring this to your attention if you're not yet aware. A new documentary titled Steal This Story, Please. It's a new film about our friend Amy Goodman and her program Democracy Now!, which of course I recommend often. Reading from their press release, fiercely independent journalist Amy Goodman has spent 3 decades holding the powerful to account, reporting from war zones and the Democracy Now! Newsroom. In Steal This Story, Please, Oscar-nominated filmmakers Carl Deal and Tia Lesson craft a riveting portrait of journalism's power and peril in an era of corporate control and political attacks on truth. So I'm looking forward to this. The film has been released or will be released soon in cities across the country. Look in your local listings and see where you can find it. I know here in Milwaukee, the film will be screened on Sunday, May 10th at the Oriental Theater. That, of course, is Milwaukee's renowned movie palace, built in the 1920s. If you're anywhere near Milwaukee and you haven't been to the Oriental, you really have to take a visit. So May 10th would be a great time to do that for the premiere of Steal This Story, Please, the story of Democracy Now! I assume they borrowed the name as an homage to Abbie Hoffman's classic Steal This Book, 1970. By the way, I was curious, so I looked it up. Steal This Book lists for $14.49 paperback on Amazon. You can get the 50th anniversary edition for $18.59. So make of that what you will. Yeah, we're big fans of Amy Goodman around here. 30 years now of her program Democracy Now! Featured also in the film, of course, Amy Goodman, her longtime show partner Juan Gonzalez, Nermeen Sheikh, and Jeremy Scahill, among others. Never been a more important time for independent news media. You and I talk about this all the time. Democracy Now! Is the crown jewel. So if you're anywhere near Milwaukee, mark your calendars for Sunday, May 10th, and join us. I know I'll be there. I believe our station, WXRW, River West Radio in Milwaukee, will have some role to play that evening. I know they're having a Q&A after the film in many locations. I think maybe we're trying to set that up here. So I'll keep you posted. Also, while you're marking your calendar, Friday, May 1st, over 3,000 events planned for May Day across the United States. 500 labor and community organizations participating. Events planned, asking all of us to skip work for the day, skip school for the day. Of course, May Day is International Labor Day since the late 1800s, originating here in the United States and recognized as an International Workers' Day. It's on a Friday. That might make it a little easier for some folks. This sort of thing isn't always easy for many workers, especially to strike for a day. Many workers are not protected. But organizers ask that you participate in any way you can. Well, a few stories and headlines have been sort of piling up unattended. Let me see if I can get to some of those. Just briefly, a majority of Americans now want the president impeached. Of course, there are 100 reasons to impeach him. But these numbers are quite something. Overall, 55% of all adults say, yes, time to impeach. As you would guess, 88% of Democrats, but it's also 50% of independents and even 21% of Republicans. More than half of the people who didn't bother to vote in the last election. Even 2024 Trump voters, 21% of them answer yes, impeach the president. It's equal among men and women. It's most popular among young people between the ages of 18 and 29, 71%, but even ages 65 plus, 47%, almost half of the older folks. Among racial groups, wide majorities, except for white folks, they come in at 49%. They just missed the 50% mark. And it ranges across education levels as well, a majority in all categories. Let's do it. We don't want to look back at this era and see it as just another lost opportunity. There's so many opportunities over the years to learn lessons that we never seem to learn. 9/11 got us into 20 years of military quagmire, and we still haven't learned that war is obsolete. The 2008 financial crisis, where many of us learned for the first time that the entire financial sector is just a game. It's a gambling den. It all runs on debt. We still bailed out the big banks. No lessons learned. COVID, when many of us learned which workers are essential and which ones, namely the non-workers, the owners, the CEOs, the management class, how utterly unessential they were. What did we do with that lesson? Nothing. We learned that working from home could work awfully well for a lot of people. And now, at the boss's insistence, we're all back in the office. We learned nothing from that lesson. We learned, many of us for the first time, how much we rely on supply chains around the world. Of course, the lesson there should have been that we need to make every effort to localize goods and services. Nothing learned. January 6th, we should have learned the lesson of accountability, to hold not only the rioters, but the organizers and the Orange Menace himself to account. Well, you see how much we learned there when 4 years later he walks back in. All opportunities to learn lessons, and all wasted and forgotten. And now some of them coming around for another at-bat. War is obsolete? Let's have another one in Iran. The financial sector is a scam? Financial bubbles burst? Well, let's get right back on that horse with the AI bubble. Horses, bubbles, you know me. I like to mix metaphors. Speaking of bombing countries, a site called Learn Daily put together this list. These are countries the United States has bombed since 1945. Japan, Germany, China 3 times, North Korea, Guatemala, Indonesia, Cuba, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, Lebanon, Libya, Iran, Nicaragua, Iraq, Kuwait, Iraq again, Somalia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Iraq again, Sudan, Afghanistan, Iraq again, Yugoslavia and Serbia, Afghanistan again, Pakistan again, Somalia again, Iraq again, Yemen, Iraq again, Syria again, Libya, Yemen again, Iran again, Somalia, Syria, Nigeria, Venezuela, and now twice in Iran the last 2 years. Stretching from 1945 to the present. And you can add to that list the bombs we're dropping on fishing boats off the coast of South and Central America. Another one just in the last couple of days. I've lost track of the boats, but according to Amy Goodman and Democracy Now!, the total dead, 185. That's 185 stone-cold murders by war criminals, the Orange Menace, and Pete Hegseth's Department of War Crimes. You may have heard a couple weeks ago the SAVE Act failed in Congress, so-called SAVE Act, the Voter Suppression Act. But rigging the midterms is still a top priority of the regime, and they are hard at work. I'm going to point you to an article I'd like you to read on ProPublica. Inside Trump's Effort to Take Over the Midterm Elections by Doug Bach-Clark and Jen Fifield. The Orange Menace is systematically demolishing federal guardrails, the same guardrails that prevented him from overturning the 2020 election. Many in the election denial movement have been hired to oversee federal elections. Some of these positively fringe actors now have vast powers. You'll remember that Attorney General William Barr, for all of his faults, wanted nothing to do with the 2020 election lies. But now, of course, Todd Blanche is in that role, ready to do whatever the Orange Menace says. The regime doing everything it can to solicit the help of local and state MAGA officials. They're doing everything they can to infiltrate systems, machines, We know damn well that Elon Musk and the Dodgy Boys were up to no good, hacking data systems. There's still the expectation that some false flag emergency will be declared in order to employ his private ICE army to the polls. So we have to stay vigilant about this. We have to, as I've been saying, let your representatives know that you know. Give all the support you can to your local election officials and lawmakers. In fact, while we're at it, let me point you to another article. Jacobin.com. A Plan to Stop ICE from Stealing the Midterms by Eric Blank, pointing out that local and state officials can go a long way to fight the steal, encouraging them to act now, to go on offense, instead of waiting and seeing what the Orange Menace will do in November. A campaign to ban ICE from polling places would provide a concrete, winnable demand that unions, student organizations, and immigrant and democracy defense groups could organize around today. Mass trainings, develop new leaders. And then finally, I want to talk about this at length, but right now, just a quick mention. Shout out to independent journalist David Sirota, who's been posting recently a lot of support for what you and I believe. Let me just read a couple of his posts. Among the most destructive ideas implanted in liberals' minds is the idea that they must vote for who they, often wrongly, calculate will be the most electable, rather than whose policies are actually good. This pervasive voter as pundit pathology has been manufactured by corporate media and the propaganda system. It is deeply cynical, evil, and an obstacle to progress. 100%. You and I have been saying this for a long time. You're a voter. You're not a pundit. Stop this electability nonsense. In a later post, David Sirota wrote, a reminder that there is a cottage industry of pundits, academics, and so-called influencers depicting themselves as knowers of electability. But they know nothing, and neither do I, you, or anyone else. The democratic voter as electability pundit idea has been an absolute disaster. Stop succumbing to this inane mindset and just start voting your conscience. You literally have no idea who is, quote-unquote, electable. Couldn't agree more. I've been saying this for a very long time. All right. Well, we'll have plenty of time to talk about electoral politics as we inch closer here to the midterms. And then, of course, the presidential election will be right around the corner. I hate to say it, but it's true. So we'll have plenty of time to talk more about this. All right. This and all episodes can be heard at the website, charlespurcell.com, or on your favorite podcast platform. Find us on Blue Sky and Substack. Thanks to our flagship terrestrial station, River West Radio in Milwaukee. Peter Donalds wrote and performed our theme song. All right, I love you. I'll see you out there.